For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to those who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where the wise person, where the teacher of the law, where the philosopher of the age has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world. For since the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believed. Jews demanded signs, Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews, a foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God, and the wisdom of God, for the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. That reading is from Corinthians. We all know, or if we're children, our parents may have told us the significance of today. Today isn't just about a springtime celebration where we watch the bunnies dance through a meadow. It isn't about the, as what's out there commercially, the Easter bunny. But today is the significance where God proves his love to all those who follow in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. Today we celebrate the fact that Jesus Christ not only was hung on the cross, but he was taken down from the cross, placed in a tomb, and rose from the dead. The significance of him rising from the dead on that third day was he was to open the gates of heaven to all those who believed in the power of God, the power of his Father. That power, as was read in here in Corinthians, overrules any wisdom that we think that we might have. It overrules any power that we think that we have as human beings. Think about it. Is it possible for a man to come back to life? He's pronounced dead. No, he can't come back to life. Think about it on our TV screens. We have all these hospital and police shows with a guy flatlines. And it's like, and they jolt him with adrenaline and shock him with the defibrillator paddles. And if he doesn't come back to life within, or should I say he doesn't open his eyes or his heart doesn't start to beat again within so many minutes, he isn't going to ever open his eyes again. He's dead. Once a member of the medical community, a doctor, pronounces you dead, that's it. It's done. Well, 2,000 years ago, when Jesus Christ was taken from the cross, placed in the tomb, he had been pronounced dead. You do not rise back from being dead. That is traditional wisdom. God overruled that wisdom, and Jesus Christ stood to walk the planet until he ascended to heaven back next to God. But more importantly, with today's Easter message that yes, Jesus Christ did rise from the dead. Yes, Jesus Christ did open the gates of heaven. And I want to speak about us being Christians and what it means to follow in the teachings of Jesus Christ while he held his ministry. What did Jesus Christ teach us? And then what would those teachings tell us today as we watch what is going on in the Ukraine, in Syria, Ethiopia? As we watch elections to be held in Colombia, or I should say elections that were held in Colombia, what would Jesus Christ's teachings tell us about that? What would Jesus Christ's teachings tell us about war? About fighting brother against brother? Now, I want to take you to the Last Supper, because it is part of what of the events that led to Jesus Christ being crucified. See, it's more than just today. There's a series of days that lead to this season. Those series of days are also part of Passover. Passover being the celebration where the Jews were allowed to have, or freed by God into Exodus, away from the Egyptians. The prayer in the garden, just before Jesus was arrested. What would Jesus say about war? When we use the prayer in the garden and the events that led to Jesus Christ's arrest, we would say that just from the last 3 days of celebration, we could conclude that Jesus Christ would say, no, we should sit down and we should talk about our differences. That we should use words, not the sword, in order to solve our differences. That in modern times, we should put down the guns and we should talk. Use our tongues, express our differences with pen, paper, language, and tongue. Those were the tools that Jesus Christ used during his ministry in order to change the hearts of people who were to follow him. he did not take up the sword. Even when he was to be led to his death, he did not call for anyone to strike out or attack to free him. He took the cross, he walked, he stumbled. He hung there till his human body gave up its life. He didn't, when presented before Pontius Pilate, he did not scream out to choose him over Barabbas. He knew that in order to change the hearts of men away from violence, that he had to be the ultimate in nonviolence. Nonviolent change. He knew that that was the path. That would be the path that would lead man to salvation. The human race to salvation was nonviolence. So what would Jesus Christ say to us taking aim at another one of our brothers because they were part of an opposing government? What if, trust me, I'm not a very, very big fan of what ifs, but this is an important what if. What if a government sent soldiers to oppose another government, and all the soldiers, when they met, they put their guns down and they shook hands and embraced each other? Both sides, sworn enemies, embraced instead of fought, instead of killing each other. What if? There's something to think about. But that is what Jesus Christ would want us to do. Not to send opposing soldiers, but to send opposing ambassadors with arguments, points of offerings, points of what each government needs. Because most times we're fighting over a piece of land. We're fighting over something that we think that, oh, our brother on the other side of that fence has it, and we're blocked from using it so that we can survive also, that we can get our goods to a market also, so that we can have food also. Instead of fighting over that piece of land, what if we went to the opposing side with a list of demands, wants, and concessions? What are we willing to give in offering so that we may use that piece of land also peacefully? How can we respectfully use the resources of our neighbor and allow our neighbor to respectfully use the resources that we have that they may need. That is what Jesus Christ would have us do when we fight over a piece of land. Jesus Christ would have us, in terms of philosophies, religion, and ways of thinking, that we don't have to accept what our brother says is true, but we do have to respect it for being what our brother thinks it is true. That God offers us all many paths back to home with Him, and that we have to respect each of those paths for being true to our brother. There are some quid pro quos there, of course. And see, I just gave reasons why we don't have to be tolerant. But as long as our brother isn't claiming that he needs to sacrifice sacrifice our life in order for him to worship God, then we probably don't have a problem. Thus leading back to the nonviolence again. We don't have to all say that the same flower is sacred. In other words, we don't have to say that, but we do have to respect and be tolerant of those, because in the end, we're all going to have to face God, our Creator. We're all going to have to tell Him our story. And we're all going to have to be welcomed by God, our Father, our Creator, as we enter into His kingdom. So we should be ready to be welcomed. And we should do whatever our soul needs to be welcomed by Him into His love, into His gates of love, and give each of our brothers that same love that God offers us. So, with that, a simple prayer. God, I only ask this, that you help each and every one of us, and you help me be that example of your power and your love. Let me be the example of what you wanted Jesus Christ, your Son, to teach. Amen.